When I first started, I probably made 40, 50 cold calls a day. And that's what I tell everybody. If you're doing 10 or 20 and you're not having success, there's no mystery why you're not having success. If you go see 40 or 50, just by sheer luck, it's going to happen. There's no doubt about it. If you're terrible, you're bad, you got terrible technique, somebody's going to be pissed off at their merchant or their processor, and they're going to be like, man, you came at the right time. It's going to happen.
And how many cold calls do you make a day now?
I'd probably say I make about 15 or 20 because I'm also seeing existing clients. I'm dealing a lot in referrals, so I don't have to do that as much. And plus, it's as you continue to grow, you start working smarter, not harder.
Starting out cold calling, I probably, 35 to 40. Living in an area where businesses are more spread out, not living in a metroplex. In smaller towns, it took a while to get from one business to another, so I'd say probably on the lower end of 35 to 40 businesses a day.
And how many do you make now?
Now, it's interesting because I would think that you would have to keep that up, but it's been great that through referrals, through ability to be more successful closing deals and things like that, it's probably dropped in half, about 15 to 20 a day, cold calling. Versus 35 to 40.
Now that I've gained a lot more experience with the cold calling industry, I'm really kind of embarrassed to say, but maybe 20 a day. But I work a lot off of referrals, so my referrals way outweigh my cold calls in my opinion. I just do the cold calling because I enjoy going into new businesses and new people.
Signing merchants, I try and do one per day. It's what I want my average to be at the end of the month. It doesn't always work out that I sign one every day. Some days I may sign 2 or 3. But on average, over the course of a week, usually 4 to 5 is where I try and keep my average every week, and push beyond that. But I would say consistently 4 to 5 businesses a week.
And so, how many do you have that are, ready to sign or a possibility to sign in every week?
Usually starting out the week, usually have about maybe 10, 12 businesses that I should be able to sign that week. Of course, all of them don't come through that week. They may be pushed off, but other ones are added to that to kind of maintain that there's always probably about twice as many as I want to sign out there.
So how important is it to have a pipeline full of merchants that are ready to sign every week?
Having your pipeline full where you have people that are ready to go, you've done the analysis, and you're just waiting for an answer back is very important. That's something you're going to have. You're going to get the cold call closes. You're going to get the people that are a referral that you didn't expect. But without having those people in there that you do know you're going to close, you're not going to hit your numbers.
My ultimate goal is 1 merchant per day. That's tough to do, but I'd say a good, reasonable goal, and what I usually try to do is 3 merchants per week.
So how many merchants do you have in your pipeline that are ready to close within a week?
I've got about 15 deals, 15 merchants in my pipeline right now that are ready to go.
Probably 3 to 4.
Okay.
But I've done as many as 10 in 1 week.
Okay.
And I've done as little as 0 in 1 week.
Okay. So if you're on average, say you're signing 4 a week, how many do you have in your pipeline ready to close in a given week?
I usually, in my pipeline, I have 50 in my pipeline at any given time. I normally have 50. I add, subtract. Yeah, I usually have 50 on that paper.
So talk about why it's important to have that pipeline full.
Because if you run out, there's what I don't call it a hop, I call it a hopper.
Okay.
I have these names in a hopper. And I'll tell Cindy, my wife, I'll say, Cindy, I have this much money in the hopper. And so I don't tell her the merchant names, but I call it a hopper. And then she'll say, how much you have in the hopper? And next week she'll say, how much money you have in the hopper? And I'd say, well, I got $2,000 in the hopper.
I have a very large pipeline because I always try to keep my pipeline full. If your pipeline's not full, then you're going to sink in this business. So I would probably say that I can go to my pipeline at any given time in the week, and I bet there's at least 10 to 15 in my pipeline that I can go touch base with in a week.
When I first started, I was probably I was probably out in the field, by 8:30, 9 o'clock at the latest, and I'd go until 4:30, 5 o'clock, sometimes later. I mean, I would definitely do that in the beginning because you really have to kind of front load all your effort up front. You got to put as much effort in as you can, build that pipeline up, just crank it all out, and stuff will start spilling out. If you don't, I heard something a long time ago that it takes 10,000 pounds of pressure to 10,000 gallons of gas, to get the space shuttle launched. So if you only have 9,999, it's not going to do it. And a lot of people put some effort forward, and they don't go that extra little effort, that extra little thing that can push them over the edge. They quit or something else. So the thing I can encourage people is give it all your effort up front, and then things start snowballing. And